Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. There is a certain arbitrariness in marking sesquicentennials with greater fanfare than we mark 349s or 351sts. Clearly, that the passage of the numbers of years since the occurrence of the event being celebrated happens to correspond with a number privileged by itself in a conventional base system has no principled bearing on the degree of festivity a particular anniversary merits. This arbitrariness takes on an irony when the anniversary to be celebrated is the birth of one who illuminated the path of liberation from the wheel of births and deaths, one who made manifest that atemporal being who eternally is, and one who eminentized transcendence itself and demonstrated how the alchemy of attaining identity with that absolute is the potential and realization of every created being. Revolutions of the earth around the sun seem altogether orthogonal to marking that which is essential and uniquely worthy of celebration, and one who exemplified synergy between atemporal attainment and temporal revolution. Arbitrary as sesquicentennial celebrations evidently are with respect to their objects, their very conventionality counterintuitively functions to further the end of their objects. This is to say that significant anniversaries of significant events afford communities periodic occasions to reflect publicly upon their meaning and their significance in guiding present action. While as one of history's great lawgivers, Guru Gobind Singh lives in the outward form and innermost aspirations of millions of Sikhs the world over, his 350th birth anniversary is good a time as any, and being the present, as good a time as is presently available to take stock of how completely the contemporary Sikh body politic realizes the resplendent elan of the illustrious 10th Guru, for in his own words, Khalsa Mero Ruhe Khas. A mystic, a statesman, poet, warrior, singer, son, and father par excellence, Guru Gobind Singh bequeathed a swaggeringly staggering patrimony to the bund. In the domains of spirituality and statecraft, literature and warfare, aesthetics and ethics, he ensured not only self-sufficiency for his Sikhs, but also that his court's overflowing bounty would provide for the liberation of all humanity. The uncomfortable question we, his heirs in outward form and innermost aspirations, must ask ourselves is how completely we collectively realize his outward form and innermost aspirations. If our innermost aspirations truly are his innermost aspirations, to what degree do our outward accomplishments in the domains of spirituality, statecraft, literature, warfare, aesthetics, and ethics do justice to the swaggeringly staggering civilization he bequeathed to us? And where we fall short of Guru Gobind Singh's art of living and of dying well, what exactly is the overflowing bounty and unique fragrance of the Guru's court that our failure in self-sufficiency denies humanity? The questions I raise are obviously greater than those I can presently answer, but that is why I raise them during this sesquicentennial, for the present is as good a time as we have to take collective stock of where we are, what we must accomplish, and how we will do it. Rather than sketching a cursory and inevitably inadequate positive answer, I will turn now to a negative project of identifying two of the primary intellectual impediments towards arriving at an adequate answer. By way of conclusion, I will at least gesture towards how the political philosophy and statesmanship of Guru Gobind Singh can illuminate viable vistas for addressing one of the thorniest life problems in the sphere of American political debate. The first of these genuinely Sikh impediments to an intellectual response to human problems is the dogmatic stronghold of positivism in the academy. Within a physicalist paradigm, where all ontologically extant matter is composed of particles, and all genuine knowledge is empirical or logico-mathematical, realist conceptions of theology, metaphysics, ethics, and aesthetics are historicized as spatio-temporally contingent, which is to say culturally relative. Normative claims are then ideological claims, if the distinction between facts and values is to be accepted. On certain conceptions of liberalism, there is considerable squeamishness, if not downright diffidence, in defending even those discursive norms and the institutional framework that make liberal democracy itself possible. Among those who are not positivists, postmodernism is pervasive, problematizing even the possibility of gaining objective knowledge about the physical world, given that all human science is mediated by human purposes. Postmodernists in the humanities and social sciences are often proponents of perspectivism. For perspectivists, there are no facts of the matter, only perspectivists, no history, only narratives. There is no rational basis for selecting one order over another order, so there is no authority, but only domination. In this brutish struggle for power, volition unseats reason as the driver, and the pre-Bentalist particularism of consequentialist identity politics necessarily prevails. On this paradigm, it is in the interests of Sikhs in the American political context to join the electoral fray, vying for greater representation and social acceptance as one out of many minority groups. I would humbly submit that for such conceptual co-option to delimit the scope of Sikh political participation in the American Republic would be to forego the revealed and practical wisdom that the Sikh tradition can offer to the world's first experiment in self-government. The second intellectual impediment of epistemic parochialism is conceptually downstream of dogmatic physicalism, epistemic positivism, and methodological historicism. Postcolonialist theorists, especially within Sikh studies, maintain that translation necessarily results in discursive violence, where the conceptual system of the colonizer subjugates the concepts of the colonized. To speak then of Sikh theology is to impose alien concepts, categories, and discursive norms on the Sikh tradition, or at least so the claim goes. From the other end, a subsection of Christian academics have problematized the possibility of non-Christian theology on the grounds that the crux of theology is faith-seeking understanding, and without faith, that is, a gift from the God who is one in three, and three in one, to speak of Christian theology is semantically imprecise. While there is truth in the concerns of the Sikh and Christian academics of this bent, I believe that this truth is intellectual historical in nature, yet misses the properly theological crux of the matter. It is true that the hermeneutic curve and different cultural schemas make translation difficult. It is even true that the social, economic, intellectual, and political relations between different cultures can materially affect the terms of translation. However, I do not believe that it is impossible to state all of the relevant content of one tradition's key concepts in another language, even if it takes several sentences, for which one then stipulates a concise verbal handle. Unless one can rule out in principle the possibility that other traditions have genuine revelation from the same one God, one cannot justifiably assert that they have nothing to contribute to theology, the study of God. One might go so far as to suggest that the idea of an exclusively Christian theology is as parochial and inept as a feminist chemistry. Myself, I would humbly affirm, along with the Sikh Guru's unequivocal teaching, that the wellspring of all the world's great faiths is the mystical, revelatory experience that comes first and is only subsequently enshrined in Scripture. What is eternal, irreducible, and essential in all faiths is then what is universal and unvitiated by the vicissitudes of time. As truth of the Creator of all creation is eternally true, and as truth, it binds all creation without being bounded in any single tradition. Having at least identified and called into question the validity of two of the most pervasive and dogmatic impediments to a distinctively Sikh contribution to practical philosophy, I will conclude with a highly provisional sketch of the tutelary role that political philosophy and the statesmanship of Guru Gobind Singh can offer to the American Republic today. When faith in the creedal natural law lodestar of the Declaration of Independence seems weaker than it has been in decades, even the idea of a common good seems chimerical. Under these circumstances, there is much to be learned from a Gnosticism that is not consequentialist but deontic, from a universalism that is committed to pluralism untainted by a positivist or postmodern relativism, a conception of faith that enjoins social meliorism rather than political quietism, and a commitment to opposing totalitarianism in all of its forms and its efforts to quash the freedom of conscience with both spiritual compassion and political realism. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।